2 Samuel chapter 11. Bathsheba, David's great sin. Then it happened at the spring, at the time when David, at the time when kings go out to battle, that David sent Joab and his servants with him and all Israel, and they brought destruction to the sons of Ammon and besieged Rabbah. But David stayed in Jerusalem. Now at evening time, David got up from his bed and walked around on the roof of the king's house. And from the roof he saw a woman bathing, and the woman was very beautiful in appearance. So David sent servants and inquired about the woman. And someone said, "Is this not Bathsheba, daughter of Eliam, the wife of Uriah the Hittite?" Then David sent messengers and had her brought. And when she came to him, he slept with her. And when she had purified herself from her uncleanness, she returned to her house. But the woman conceived. So she sent word and informed David and said, "I am pregnant." Then David sent word to Joab, "Send me Uriah the Hittite." So Joab sent Uriah to David. When Uriah came to him, David asked about Joab's well being and that of the people, and the condition of the war. Then David said to Uriah, "Go down to your house and wash your feet." So Uriah left the king's house, and a gift from the king was sent after him. But Uriah slept at the door of the king's house with all the servants of his lord, and he did not want to go down to his house. Now, when they informed David, saying, "Uriah did not go down to his house," David said to Uriah, "Did you not come from a journey? Why did you not go down to your house?" And Uriah said to David, "The ark and Israel and Judah are staying in temporary shelters, and my lord Joab and the servants of my lord are camping in the open field. Should I then go to my house to eat and to drink and to sleep with my wife? By your life and the life of your soul, I will not do this thing." Then David said to Uriah, "Stay here today also, and tomorrow I will let you go back." So Uriah remained in Jerusalem that day and the day after. Now David summoned Uriah, and he ate and drank in his presence, and he made Uriah drunk. And in the evening Uriah went out to lie on his bed with his lord's servants, but he still did not go down to his house. So in the morning David wrote a letter to Joab and sent it by the hand of Uriah. He had written in the letter the following: "Station Uriah on the front line of the fierce battle, and pull back from him, so that he may be struck and killed." So it was as Joab kept watch on the city that he stationed Uriah at the place where he knew were valiant men. And the men of the city went out and fought against Joab. And some of the people among David's servants fell, and Uriah the Hittite also died. Then Joab sent a messenger and reported to David that all the events of the war. He ordered the messenger, saying, "When you have finished telling all of the events of the war to the king, then it shall be that if the king's wrath rises and he says to you, 'Why did you move against the city to fight? Did you not know that they would shoot from the wall? Who struck Abimelech, son of Jerubasheth? Did a woman not throw an upper millstone on him from the wall so that he died at Thebes? Why did you move against the wall?' Then you shall say, 'Your servant Uriah the Hittite also died.'" So the messenger departed and came and reported David everything that Joab had sent him to tell. The messenger said to David, "The men prevailed against us and came out against us in the field, but we pressed them as far as the entrance of the gate. Also, the archers shot at your servants from the wall. So the king's servants died, and your servant Uriah the Hittite also died." Then David said to the messenger, "This is what you shall say to Joab: Do not let this thing displease you, for the sword devours one as well as another. Fight with determination against the city and overthrow it, and thereby encourage him." Now, when Uriah's wife heard that her husband Uriah was dead, she mourned for her husband. When the time of mourning was over, David sent servants and had her brought to his house, and she became his wife. Then she bore him a son. But the thing that David had done was evil in the sight of the Lord. Chapter 12. Nathan rebukes David. Then the Lord sent Nathan to David, and he came to him and said, there were two men in a city, the one wealthy and the other poor. The wealthy man had a great many flocks and herds, but the poor man had nothing at all except one little ewe lamb, which he brought and he nurtured. And it grew up together with him and his children. It would eat scraps from him and drink from his cup and lie in his lap, and it was like a daughter to him. Now a visitor came to the wealthy man, and he could not bring himself to take any animal from his own flock or his own herd, to prepare the traveler who had come to him. So he took the poor man's ewe lamb and prepared it for the man who had come to him. Then David's anger burned greatly against the man, and he said to Nathan, as the Lord lives, the man who has done this certainly deserves to die. So we must make restitution for the lamb 4 times over, since he did this thing and had no compassion. Nathan then said to David, you yourself are that man. This is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says. It is I who anointed you as king over Israel, and it is I who rescued you from the hand of Saul. I also gave you your master's house and put your master's wives in your care, and I gave you the house of Israel and Judah. And if that hadn't been too little, I would have added to you many more things like these. Why have you despised the word of the Lord by doing evil in his sight? You have struck and killed Uriah the Hittite with the sword. You have taken his wife as your wife, and you have slaughtered him with the sword of the sons of Ammon. Now then, the sword shall never leave your house because you have despised me, and have taken the wife of Uriah the Hittite to be your wife. This is what the Lord says. Behold, I am going to raise up evil against you from your own household. I will even take your wives before your eyes and give them to your companion, and he will sleep with your wives in broad daylight. Indeed, you did it secretly, but I will do these things before all Israel and in open daylight. Then David said to Nathan, I have sinned against the Lord. And Nathan said to David, the Lord has also allowed your sin to pass. You shall not die. However, since by this deed you have shown utter disrespect for the Lord, the child himself who is born to you shall certainly die. Then Nathan went to his house. Loss of a child. Later, the Lord struck the child that Uriah's widow bore to David, so that he was very sick. David therefore pleaded with God for the child, and David fasted and went and lay all night on the ground. The elders of his household stood beside him in order to help him up from the ground, but he was unwilling and would not eat food with them. Then it happened on the 7th day that the child died. And David's servants were afraid to tell him that the child was dead, for they said, behold, while the child was still alive, we spoke to him, and he did not listen to us. How then can we tell him that the child is dead, since he might do himself harm? But when David saw that his servants were whispering together, David perceived that the child was dead. So David said to his servants, is the child dead? And they said, he is dead. So David got up from the ground, washed, anointed himself, and changed his clothes. And he went into the house of the Lord and worshipped. Then he went to his own house, and when he asked, they served him food, and he ate. Then his servants said to him, what is this thing you have done? You fasted and wept for the child while he was alive, but when the child died, you got up and ate food. And he said, while the child was still alive, I fasted and I wept, for I said, who knows, the Lord may be gracious to me, and the child may live. But now he has died. Why should I fast? Can I bring him back again? I am going to him, but he will not return to me. Solomon born. Then David comforted his wife Bathsheba, and went in to her and slept with her, and she gave birth to a son, and he named him Solomon. Now the Lord loved him, and sent word through Nathan the prophet, and named him Jedediah for the Lord's sake. War again. Now Joab fought against Rabbah of the sons of Ammon, and captured the royal city. Then Joab sent the messengers to David and said, I have fought against Rabbah, I have even captured the city of waters. Now then, gather up the rest of the people, and camp opposite the city, and capture it. or I will capture the city myself, and it will be named after me." So David gathered all the people and went to Rabbah, and he fought against it and captured it. Then he took the crown of their king from his head, and its weight was a talent of gold, and it had a precious stone, and it was placed on David's head. And he brought out of the plunder of the city in great amounts. He also brought up he also brought out the people who were in it, and put some to work at saws, iron picks, iron axes, and made others serve at the brickworks. And he did the same to all the cities of the sons of Ammon. Then David and all the people returned to Jerusalem. Chapter 13. Amnon and Tamar. Now it was after this that Absalom, the son of David, had a beautiful sister, whose name was Tamar. And Ammon, the son of David, was in love with her. But Ammon was so frustrated on the account of his sister, Tamar, that he made himself ill, for she was a virgin, and it seemed too difficult to Ammon to do anything to her. But Ammon had a friend whose name was Jonadab, the son of Shemaiah, David's brother. And Jonadab was a very clever man. And he said to him, "Why are you, the king's son, so depressed morning after morning? Will you not tell me?" So, so Amnon said to him, "I am in love with Tamar, the sister of my brother Absalom." Jonadab then said to him, "Lie down on your bed and pretend to be ill. When your father comes to see you, say to him, 'Please, have my sister Tamar come and give me food to eat, and have her prepare the food in my sight, so that I may see it and eat from her hand." So Amnon lay down and pretended to be ill. When the king came to see him, Amnon said to the king, "Please have my sister Tamar come and make me a couple of pastries in my sight, so that I may eat from her hand." Then David sent a messenger to the house of Tamar, saying, "Go now to your brother Amnon's house and prepare food for him." So Tamar went to her brother Amnon's house, and he was lying in bed. And she took dough, kneaded it, made pastries in his sight, and baked the pastries. Then she took the tray and served them to him, but he refused to eat. And Amnon said, "Have everyone leave me." So everyone left him. Then Amnon said to Tamar, "Bring the food into the bedroom, so I may eat from your hand." So Tamar took the pastries which she had made, and brought them into the bedroom to her brother Amnon. When she brought them to him to eat, he took hold of her and said to her, "Come, sleep with me, my sister." But she said to him, "No, my brother, do not violate me, for such a thing is not done in Israel. Do not do this disgraceful sin. As for me, where could I get rid of my shame? As for you, you will be like one of the fools in Israel. Now then, please speak to the king, for he will not withhold me from you." However, he would not listen to her. Since he was stronger than she, he violated her and slept with her. Then Amnon hated her with a very great hatred. Indeed, the hatred with which he hated her was greater than the love with which he had loved her. And Amnon said to her, "Get up and go away." But she said to him, "No, because this wrong in sending me away is greater than the other that you have done to me." Yet he would not listen to her. Then he called his young man who attended him and said, "Now throw this woman out of my presence and lock the door behind her." Now she had on a long sleeved garment, for this is how the virgin daughters of the king dressed themselves in robes. Then this attendant took her out and locked the door behind her. Tamar took the ashes. Tamar took ashes and put them on her head, and tore her long sleeved garment which was on her head. And she put her hand on her head and went on her way, crying out as she went. Then Absalom, her brother, said to her, "Has Amnon your brother been with you? But now keep silent, my sister, he is your brother. Do not take this matter to heart." So Tamar remained and was isolated in her brother Absalom's house. Now when King David heard about all these matters, he became very angry. But Absalom did not speak with Amnon either good or bad, for Absalom hated Amnon because he had violated his sister Tamar. Now it came about after 2 full years that Absalom had sheep shearers in Baal-hazor, which is near Ephraim. And Absalom invited all the king's sons to celebrate. Absalom avenges Tamar. And Absalom came to the king and said, "Behold now, your servant has sheep shearers. May the king and his servants please go with your servant." But the king said to Absalom, "No, my son, we shall not all go, so that we will not be a burden to you." Though he urged him, he would not go. But he blessed him. Then Absalom said, "If not, please have my brother Amnon go with us." But the king said to him, "Why should he go with you?" Nevertheless, Absalom urged him, so he let Amnon and all the king's sons go with him. Then Absalom commanded his servants, saying, "See how when Amnon's heart is cheerful with wine, and I say to you, strike Amnon and put him to death. Do not fear. Have I not commanded you myself? Be courageous and be valiant." And the servants of Absalom did to Amnon just as Absalom had commanded. Then all the king's sons got up, and each mounted his mule and fled. Now it was while they were on the way that the report came to David, saying, "Absalom has struck and killed all the king's sons, and not one of them is left." Then the king stood up, tore his clothes, and lay on the ground, and all his servants were standing by with clothes torn. And Jonadab, the son of Shemaiah, David's brother, responded, "Let my lord not assume that they have been put to death all the young men, the king's sons, for only Amnon is dead, because this has been set up by the intent of Absalom since the day that he violated his sister Tamar. So now, my lord the king not take the report to heart, claiming, all the king's sons are dead, but only Amnon is dead." Now Absalom had fled, and the young man who was the watchman raised his eyes and looked, and behold, many people were coming from the road behind him by the side of the mountain. And Jonadab said to the king, "Behold, the king's sons have come, so it has happened according to your servant's word." As soon as he had finished speaking, behold, the king's sons came and raised their voices and wept. And the king and all his servants also wept very profusely. Now Absalom had fled and gone to Talmai the son of Ammihud, the king of Geshur, and David mourned for his son every day. So Absalom had fled and gone to Geshur, and was there for 3 years. And the heart of King David longed to go out to Absalom, for he was comforted regarding Amnon, since he was dead. Chapter 14. The woman of Tekoa. Now Joab, son of Zeruiah, perceived that the king's heart was drawn towards Absalom. So Joab sent a messenger to Tekoa, and brought a wise woman from there, and said to her, "Please, follow mourning rites, and put on mourning garments now. And do not anoint yourself with oil, but be like a woman who has been mourning for the dead for many days. Then go to the king, and speak to him in this way." So Joab put the words in her mouth. Now when the woman of Tekoa spoke to the king, she fell on her face on the ground, prostrated herself, and said, "Help, O king." And the king said to her, "What is troubling you?" And she answered, "Truly I am a widow, for my husband is dead. And your servant had 2 sons, but the 2 of them fought in the field, and there was no one to save them from each other. So one struck the other and killed her. Now behold, the entire family has risen against your servant, and they have said, 'Hand over the one who has struck his brother, so that we may put him to death for the life of his brother whom he killed, and eliminate the heir as well.' So they will extinguish my coal which is left, so as to leave my husband neither name nor remnant on the face of the earth." Then the king said to the woman, "Go to your home, and I will issue orders concerning you." The woman of Tekoa said to the king, My lord the king, the guilt is on me and my father's house, but the king and his throne are guiltless." So the king said, "Whoever speaks to you, bring him to me, and he will not touch you any more." Then she said, "May the king please remember the Lord your God, so that the avenger of blood will not continue to destroy, otherwise they will destroy my son." And he said, "As the Lord lives, not one hair of your son shall fall to the ground." Then the woman said, "Please, let your servant speak a word to the Lord my king." And he said, "Speak." The woman said, "Why then have you planned such a thing against the people of God? For in speaking this word, the king is like one who is guilty, and that the king does not bring back his son, his banished one. For we will surely die, and we are like the water spilled on the ground which cannot be gathered up. Yet God does not take away life, but makes plans so that the banished one will not be cast out from him. Now then, the reason I have come to speak now the reason I have come to speak this word to my lord the king is that the people have made me afraid." So your servant said, "Let me speak to the king. Perhaps the king will perform the request of his slave. For the king will listen to save his slave from the hand of the man who would eliminate both me and my son from the inheritance of God." Then Then your servant said, please let the word of my lord the king be comforting. For as the angel of God, so is my lord the king to discern good and evil. And may the Lord your God be with you. Then the king answered and said to the woman, please do not hide anything from me that I am about to ask you. And the woman said, let my lord the king please speak. So the king said, is the hand of Joab with you in all this? And the woman replied, as your soul lives, my lord the king, no one can turn to the right or to the left from anything that my lord the king has spoken. Indeed, it was your servant Joab who commanded me, and it was he who put all these words in the mouth of your servant. In order to change the appearance of things, your servant Joab has done this thing. But, but my Lord is wise, like the wisdom of the angel of God, to know all that is on the earth. Absalom returns. Then the king said to Joab, behold now, I will certainly do this thing. Go then, bring back the young man Absalom. And Joab fell on his face to the ground, prostrated himself, and blessed the king. And Joab said, today your servant knows that I have found favor in your sight, my lord the king, and that the king has performed the request of his servant. So Joab rose and went to Geshur and brought Absalom to Jerusalem. However, the king said, he shall return to his own house, though he shall not see my face. So Absalom returned to his own house and did not see the king's face. Now in all Israel there was no one as handsome as Absalom, so highly praised. From the sole of his foot to the top of his head there was no impairment in him. And when he cut the hair of his head, and it was at the end of every year that he cut it, because it was heavy on him, so he cut it, he weighed the hair of his head at 200 shekels by the king's weight. And to Absalom there were born 3 sons and 1 daughter, whose name was Tamar. She was a woman of beautiful appearance. Now Absalom lived 2 full years in Jerusalem, yet he did not see the king's face. Then Absalom sent for Joab to send him to the king, but he would not come to him. So he sent word again a second time, but he would not come. Therefore he said to his servants, see, Joab's plot is next to mine, and he has barely there. Go and set it on fire. So Absalom's servants set the plot on fire. And then Joab got up, came to Absalom at his house, and said to him, why have your servants set my plot on fire? Absalom answered Joab, behold, I sent for you, saying, come here, so that I may send you to the king, to say, why have I come from Geshur? It would be better for me still to be there. Now then, let me see the king's face, and if there is guilt in me, he can have me executed. So when Joab came to the king and told him, he summoned Absalom. Then Absalom came to the king and prostrated himself with his face to the ground before the king, and the king kissed Absalom. Chapter 15. Absalom's conspiracy. Now it came about after this that Absalom provided for himself a chariot and horses and 50 men to run ahead of him. And Absalom used to rise early and stand beside the road to the gate, and when any man who had a lawsuit was to come before the king for judgment, Absalom would call out to him and say, from what city are you? And he would say, your servant is from one of the tribes of Israel. Then Absalom would say to him, see, your claims are good and right, but you have no one to listen to you on the part of the king. Moreover, Absalom would say, oh that someone would appoint me judge in the land, and that every man who has a lawsuit or claim would come to me, and I would give him justice. And whenever a man approached to prostrate himself before him, he would put out his hand and take hold of him and kiss him. Absalom dealt this way with all Israel who came to the king for judgment. So Absalom stole the hearts of the people of Israel. Now it came about at the end of the 4 years that Absalom said to the king, please let me go and pay my vow which I have made to the Lord in Hebron, where your servant made a vow while I was living in Geshur in Aram, saying, if the Lord will indeed bring me back to Jerusalem, then I will serve the Lord. The king said to him, go in peace. So he got up and went to Hebron. But Absalom sent spies throughout the tribes of Israel, saying, as soon as you hear the sound of the trumpet, then you shall say, Absalom is king in Hebron. Then 200 men went with Absalom from Jerusalem, who were invited and went innocently, for they did not know anything. And Absalom sent for David Ahithophel the Gilonite. David's counselor from the city of Gilo, while he was while he was offering the sacrifices. And the conspiracy was strong, for the people continually increased with Absalom. David flees Jerusalem. Then a messenger came to David saying, "The hearts of the people of Israel are with Absalom." So David said to all his servants who were with him in Jerusalem, "Arise, and let us flee, for otherwise none of us will escape from Absalom. Go quickly, or he will hurry and overtake us, and bring disaster on us, and strike the city with the edge of the sword." Then the king's servants said to the king, "Behold, your servants will do whatever my lord the king chooses." So the king left, and all his household with him. But the king left 10 concubines behind to take care of the house. The king left, and all the people with him, and they stopped at the last house. Now all of his servants passed by beside him, and all the Gerithites, all the Pelethites, and all the Gittites, 600 men who had come with him from Gath, passed by before the king. Then the king said to Ittai the Gittite, "Why should you go with us too? Return and stay with your king, since you are a foreigner and in exile as well. Return to your own place. You came only yesterday, so should I make you wander with us today while I go wherever I go? Return, take your brothers back. Mercy and truth be with you." But Ittai answered the king and said, "As the Lord lives, and as my lord the king lives, wherever my lord the king may be, whether for death or for life, there assuredly your servant shall be." Then David said to Ittai, "Go and cross over the brook of Kidron." So Ittai the Gittite crossed over with all his men and all the little ones who were with him. While all the country was weeping with a loud voice, all the people were crossing over. The king was also crossing over. The king was also crossing over the brook to Kidron, and all the people were crossing over toward the way of the wilderness. Now behold, Zadok also came, and all the Levites with him, carrying the ark of the covenant of God. And they set down the ark of God, and Abiathar came up until all the people had finished crossing over from the city. And the king said to Zadok, "Return the ark of God to the city. If I find favor in the sight of the Lord, then he will bring me back and show me both it and his habitation. But if he says this, 'I have no delight in you,' then here I am. Let him do to me as seems good to him." The king also said to Zadok the priest, "Are you not a seer? Return to the city in peace, and your 2 sons with you, your son Ahimaaz and Jonathan, son of Abiathar. See, I am going to wait at the river crossing places of the wilderness until word comes from you to inform me." So Zadok and Abiathar returned the ark of God to Jerusalem, and they remained there. And David was going up, and David was going the ascent of the Mount of Olives, weeping as he went, and his head was covered, and while he was walking barefoot. Then all the people who were with him each covered his own head, and they were going up weeping as they went. Now someone informed David, saying, "Ahithophel is among the conspirators with Absalom." And David said, "Lord, please take the advice of Ahithophel the foolish." It happened as David was coming to the summit where God was worshipped, and that behold, Hushai the architect met him with his coat torn and dust on his head. And David said to him, "If you go over with me, then you will become a burden to me. But if you return to the city, say to Absalom, 'I will be your servant, O king, even as I was your father's servant in time past, so now I will be your servant.' Then you can foil the advice of Ahithophel for me. Are Zadok and Abiathar the priests not with you there? So it shall be that whatever you hear from the king's house, you shall report to Zadok and Abiathar the priests. Behold, their 2 sons are with them, Ahimaaz, Zadok's son, and Jonathan, Abiathar's son, and by them you shall send me everything that you hear." So Hushai, David's friend, came into the city, and Absalom came to Jerusalem. Chapter 16. Ziba, a false servant. Now when David had gone on a little beyond the summit, behold, Ziba, the servant of Mephibosheth, met him, with a team of saddled donkeys, and on them were 200 loaves of bread, 100 cakes of raisins, 100 summer fruits, and a jug of wine. And the king said to Ziba, "Why do you have these?" And Ziba said, "The donkeys are for the king's household to ride, the bread and summer fruit are for the young men to eat, and the wine for whoever is weary in the wilderness to drink. Then the king said, And where is your master's son? And Ziba said to the king, Behold, he is staying in Jerusalem, for he said, Today the house of Israel will restore the kingdom of my father to me. So the king said to Ziba, Behold, all that belongs to Mephibosheth is yours. And Ziba said, I prostrate myself. May I find favor in your sight, my lord the king. David is cursed. When King David came to Bahurim, behold, a man was coming out from there from the family of the house of Saul, and his name was Shimei, the son of Gera. He was coming out cursing as he came. He also threw stones at David and all the servants of King David, and all the people and all the warriors were on his right and on his left. This is what Shimei said when he cursed. Go away, you man of bloodshed and worthless man. The Lord has brought back upon you all the bloodshed of the house of Saul, in whose place you have become king. And the Lord has handed the kingdom over to your son Absalom, and behold, you are caught in your own evil, for you are a man of bloodshed. Then Abishai, son of Zeruiah, said to the king, Why should this dead dog curse my lord the king? Now let me go over and cut off his head. But the king said, What business of mine is yours, you sons of Zeruiah? If he curses, and if the Lord has told him, Curse David, then who should say, Why have you done so? Then David said to Abishai and to all his servants, Behold, my son who came out of my own body seeks my life. How much more this Benjaminite? Leave him alone and let him curse, for the Lord has told him. Perhaps the Lord will look on my misery and return good to me instead of his cursings this day. So David and his men went on the road, and Shimei kept on the hillside close behind him. And as he went, he cursed and threw stones and dirt at him. And the king and all the people who were with him arrived exhausted, and he refreshed himself there. Absalom enters Jerusalem. Um, Then Absalom and all the people, the men of Israel, entered Jerusalem, and Ahithophel with them. Now it came about when Hushai the Archite, David's friend, came to Absalom, that Hushai said to Absalom, Long live the king, long live the king. But Absalom said to Hushai, Is this your loyalty to your friend? Why did you not go with your friend? So Hushai said to Absalom, No, for whomever the Lord, this people, and all the men of Israel have chosen, his I shall be, and with him I shall remain. Besides, whom shall I serve? Should I not serve the presence of his son? Just as I have served in your father's presence, so I shall be in your presence. Then Absalom said to Ahithophel, Give your advice. What should we do? Ahithophel said to Absalom, have relations with your father's concubines, whom he has left behind to take care of the house. Then all Israel will hear that you have made yourself repulsive to your father. The hands of all who are with you will also be strengthened. So they pitched a tent for Absalom on the roof, and Absalom had relations with his father's concubines in the sight of all of Israel. Now the advice of Ahithophel, which he gave in those days, was taken as though one inquired the word of God. So was all the advice of Ahithophel regarded by both David and Absalom. Chapter 17. Hushai's counsel. Furthermore, Ahithophel said to Absalom, Please, let me choose 12,000 men, and let me set out to pursue David tonight. And I will attack him while he is weary and exhausted, and startle him, so that all the people who are with him will flee. Then I will strike and kill the king when he is alone, and I will bring all the people back to you. The return of everyone depends on the man whom you are seeking, and all the people will be at peace. And the plan pleased Absalom and all the elders of Israel. Nevertheless, Absalom said, Now call Hushai the Archite to say, When Hushai had come to Absalom, Absalom said to him, Ahithophel has proposed this plan. Should we carry out this plan? If not, say so yourself. So Hushai said to Absalom, This time the advice that Ahithophel has given is not good. Then Hushai said, You yourself know, your father and his men, that they are warriors, and they are fierce, like a bear deprived of her cubs in the field. And your father is an expert in warfare, and he will not spend the night with the people. Behold, he has now hidden himself in one of the ravines or in another place, and it will be that when he falls on them at the first attack, whoever hears it will say, there has been a slaughter among the people who follow Absalom. And even the one who is valiant, whose heart is like the heart of a lion, will completely despair. For all Israel knows that your father is a mighty man, and those who are with him are valiant men. But I advise that all Israel be fully gathered to you from Dan even to Beersheba, like the sand that is by the sea in the abundance, and that you personally go into battle. Then we will come to him in one of the places where he can be found, and we will fall on him, just as the dew falls on the ground. And of him and all the men who are with him, not even one will be left. And if he withdraws into a city, then all Israel shall bring ropes to that city, and we will drag it into the valley until not even a pebble is found there. Then Absalom and all the men of Israel said, the advice of Hushai the Archite is better than the advice of Ahithophel. For the Lord had ordained to foil the good advice of Ahithophel in order for the Lord to bring disaster on Absalom. Hushai's warning saves David. Then Hushai said to Zadok and Abiathar the priests, this is what Ahithophel advised Absalom and the elders of Israel to do, and this is what I have advised. Now then, send a messenger quickly and tell David, saying, do not spend the night at the river crossing places of the wilderness, but by all means cross over, or else the king and all the people who are with him will be destroyed. Now Jonathan and Ahimaaz were staying at Enrogel, and a female servant would go and inform them, and they would go and inform King David, for they could not allow themselves to be seen entering the city. But a boy did see them, and he told Absalom. So the two of them left quickly and came to the house of a man in Bahurim, who had who had a well in his courtyard and went down into it. And the woman took a cover and spread it over the well's mouth and scattered barley meal on it, so that nothing was known. Then Absalom's servants came to the woman at the house and said, where are Ahimaaz and Jonathan? And the woman said to them, they have crossed the brook of water. And when they searched and did not find them, they returned to Jerusalem. It came about after they had departed that they came up out of the well, and David went and reported to King David. And they said to David, set out and cross over the water quickly, because this is what Ahithophel has advised against you. Then David and all the people who were with him set out and crossed the Jordan. By dawn, not even one remained who had not crossed the Jordan. Now, when Ahithophel saw that his advice had not been followed, he saddled his donkey and set out and went to his home, to his city, and he set his house in order and hanged himself. So he died, and he was buried in his father's grave. Then David came to Mahanaim, and Absalom crossed the Jordan, he and all the men of Israel with him. Absalom put Amasa in command of the army in place of Joab. Now Amasa was the son of a man whose name was Ithra the Israelite, who had relations with Abigail, the daughter of Nahash, sister of Zeruiah, Joab's mother. And Israel and Absalom camped in the ground on the land of Gilead. Now when David had come to Mahanaim, Shabi, the son of Nahash, from Rabbah, of the sons of Ammon, Machir, the son of Amiel, from Lodabar, and Barzillai, the Gileadite, from Rogelim, brought beds, basins, pottery, wheat, barley, flour, roasted grain, beans, lentils, roasted seeds, honey, curds, sheep, and cheese of the herd for David and for the people who were with him to eat. For they said, the people are hungry and exhausted and thirsty in the wilderness. Chapter 18. Absalom killed. Then David took account of the people who were with him and appointed over the commanders of thousands and commanders of hundreds. And David sent the people out, a third under the command of Joab, a third under the command of Abishai, the son of Zeruiah, Joab's brother, and a third under the command of Ittai the Gittite. And the king said to the people, I myself will certainly go out with you also. But the people said, you should not go out, for if in fact we flee, they will not care about us. And if half of us die, they will not care about us. But you are worth 10,000 of us. So now it is better that you will be ready to help us from the city. Then the king said to them, whatever seems best to you, I will do. So the king stood beside the gate, and all the people went out by hundreds and thousands. But the king commanded Joab, Abishai, and Ittai, saying, deal gently with the young man Absalom for my sake. And all the people heard when the king commanded all the commanders regarding Absalom. Then the people went out to the field against Israel, and the battle took place in the forest of Ephraim. The people of Israel were defeated there by the servants of David, and the slaughter there that day was great, 20,000 men in all. For the battle was spread over the whole countryside, and the forest devoured more people that day than the sword devoured. Now Absalom encountered the servants of David. Absalom was riding on his mule, and the mule went under the branches of a massive oak. Then his head caught firmly in the oak and was left hanging between the sky and the earth, while the mule that was under him kept going. When a certain man saw him, he informed Joab and said, "Behold, I saw Absalom hanging in an oak." Then Joab said to the man who had informed him, "So behold, you saw him. Why then did you not strike him there to the ground? And then it would have been my duty to give you 10 pieces of silver and a belt." But the man said to Joab, "Even if I would receive 1,000 pieces of silver in my hand, I would not put out my hand against the king's son. For in our hearing the king commanded you, Abishai and Ittai, saying, 'Protect the young man Absalom for me.' Otherwise, if I had dealt treacherously against his life, and there is nothing hidden from the king, then you yourself would have avoided me." Then Joab said, "I will not waste time here with you." So he took 3 spears in his hand and thrust them through the heart of Absalom while he was still alive in the midst of the oak. And 10 young men who carried Joab's armor gathered around him and struck Absalom and killed him. Then Joab blew the trumpet, and the people returned from pursuing Israel, for Joab restrained the people. And they took Absalom and threw him into a deep pit in the forest, and erected over him a very large pile of stones. And all Israel fled, each to his own tent. Now Absalom in his lifetime had taken and set up for himself a memorial stone, which is in the king's valley, for he said, "I have no son to continue my name." So he named the memorial stone after his own name and called it Absalom's monument to this day. David is grief stricken. Then Ahimaaz, son of Zadok, said, "Please let me run and bring back the king news that the Lord has freed him from the hand of his enemies." But Joab said to him, "You are not the man to bring news this day, but you shall bring news another day. However, you shall bring no news this day, because the king's son is dead." Then Joab said to the Cushite, "Go, tell the king that you have seen." So the Cushite bowed to Joab and ran. However, Ahimaaz, son of Zadok, said once more to Joab, "But whatever happens, please, let me also run after the Cushite." And Joab said, "Why would you run, my son, since you will have no messenger's reward for going?" "But whatever happens," he said, "I will run." So he said to him, "Run." Then Ahimaaz ran by way of the plain and passed by the Cushite. Now David was sitting between the 2 gates, and the watchman went to the roof of the gate by the wall, and raised his eyes and looked. And behold, a man was running by himself. So the watchman called out and told the king, and the king said, "If he is by himself, there is good news in his mouth." And they came nearer and nearer. Then the watchman saw another man running, and the watchman called to the gatekeeper and said, "Behold, another man is running by himself." And the king said, This one is also bringing good news." The watchman said, I think the running form of the first one is like the running form of Ahimaaz, son of Zadok." And the king said, "This is a good man, and he is coming with good news." Then Ahimaaz called out and said to the king, "All is well." And he prostrated himself before the king with his face to the ground, and he said, "Blessed is the Lord your God, who has turned over the men who raised their hands against my lord the king." But the king said, "Is it well with the young man Absalom?" And Ahimaaz answered, "When Joab sent the king's servant with your servant, I saw a great commotion, but I did not know what it was." Then the king said, "Turn aside and stand here." So he turned aside and stood still. Then behold, the Cushite arrived, and the Cushite said, "Let the Lord my king receive good news, for the Lord has freed you this day from the hand of all those who rose up against you." Then the king said to the Cushite, "Is it well with the young man Absalom?" And the Cushite answered, "May the enemies of my lord the king and all who rise up against you for evil be like that young man." And the king trembled and went up to the chamber over the gate and wept. And this is what he said as he walked: "My son Absalom, my son Absalom, if only I had died instead of you. Absalom, my son, my son." Chapter 19. Joab disapproves of David's mourning. Then it was reported to Joab, "Behold, the king is weeping, and he mourns for Absalom." So the victory that day was turned into mourning for all the people, because the people heard it said that day, "The king is in mourning over his son." And the people entered the city surreptitiously that day, just as the people who are humiliated surreptitiously flee in battle. And the king covered his face and cried out with a loud voice, "My son Absalom, Absalom, my son, my son." Then Joab came into the house to the king and said, "Today you have shamed all of your servants who have saved your life today, and the lives of your sons and daughters, the lives of your wives and the lives of your concubines, by loving those who hate you, and by hating those who love you. For you have revealed today that commanders and servants are nothing to you. For I know today that if Absalom were alive, and that all of us were dead today, then it would be right as far as you are concerned. Now therefore arise, go out and speak kindly to your servants, for I swear by the Lord, if you do not go out, no man will stay the night with you, and this will be worse for you than all the misfortunes that has happened to you from your youth until now." David restored as king. So the king got up and sat at the gate, and they told all the people, saying, "Behold, the king is sitting at the gate." And all the people came before the king. Now Israel had fled, each to his tent, and all the people were quarreling throughout the tribes of Israel, saying, "The king rescued us from the hands of our enemies and saved us from the hands of the Philistines, but now he has fled out of the land from Absalom. However, Absalom, who we anointed over us, has died in battle. Now then, why are you silent about bringing the king back?" Then King David sent word to Zadok and Abiathar the priests, saying, "Speak to the elders of Judah, saying, Why are you the last to bring the king back to his house, since the word of all Israel has come to the king, even to his house? You are my brothers, you are my bone and my flesh. Why then should you be the last to bring back the king? And say to Amasa, Are you not my bone and flesh? May God do so to me, and more so, if you will not be commander of the army for me continually in place of Joab." So he turned the hearts of all the men of Judah as one man. So they sent word to the king, saying, "Return, you and all your servants." The king then returned and came as far as the Jordan. And the men of Judah came to Gilgal in order to go meet the king and to escort the king across the Jordan. Then Shimei, son of Gera, the Benjaminite, who came from Bahurim, hurried and came down with the men of Judah to meet King David. And there were 1,000 men of Benjamin with him, and Ziba, the servant of the house of Saul, and his 15 sons and his 20 servants were with him. And they rushed to the Jordan before the king. Then they crossed then they crossed the shallow places repeatedly to bring over the king's household and to do what was good in his sight. And Shimei, the son of Gera, fell down before the king as he was about to cross the Jordan, and he said to the king, "May my lord not consider me guilty, nor call to mind what your servant did wrong on the day when my lord the king went out from Jerusalem, so that the king would take it to heart. For your servant knows that I have sinned. So behold, I have come today, the first of all the house of Joseph, to go down to meet my lord the king." But Abishai, the son of Zeruiah, responded, "Should Shimei not be put to death for this? In fact, that he cursed the Lord's anointed?" David then said, "What is there between you and me, you sons of Zeruiah, that you should be an adversary to me today? Should anyone be put to death in Israel today? For I do not know that I am king over Israel today." So the king said to Shimei, "You shall not die." The king also swore to him. Then Mephibosheth, the grandson of Saul, came down to meet the king, but he had neither tended to his feet, nor trimmed his mustache, nor washed his clothes since the day the king departed until the day he came home in peace. And it was when he came from Jerusalem to meet the king that the king said to him, "Why did you not go with me, Mephibosheth?" So he said, "My lord the king, my servant betrayed me. For your servant said, I will saddle the donkey for myself, so that I may ride on it and go with the king, since your servant cannot walk. Furthermore, he has slandered your servant to my lord the king, but the lord the king is like an angel of God. Therefore, do what is good in your sight. For all my father's household was only people worthy of death to my lord the king. Yet you placed your servant among those who ate at your own table. So what right do I still have that I should complain any more to the king?" So the king said to him, "Why do you still speak of your affairs? I have decided. You and Ziba shall divide the land." And Mephibosheth said to the king, "Let him even take it all, since my lord the king has come safely to his own house." Now Barzillai the Gileadite had come down from Rogoim, and he went on to the Jordan with the king to escort him over the Jordan. Barzillai was very old, 80 years old, and he had provided the king food while he stayed in Mahanaim, for he was a very great man. So the king said to Barzillai, You cross over with me, and I will provide you food in Jerusalem with me. But Barzillai said to the king, How long do I still have to live that I should go up with the king to Jerusalem? I am now 80 years old. Can I distinguish between good and bad? Or can your servant taste what I eat or drink? Or can I still hear the voice of men and women singing? Why then should your servant be an added burden to my lord the king? Your servant will merely cross over the Jordan with the king, so why should the king compensate me with this reward? Please, let your servant return so that I may die in my own city near the grave of my father and my mother. However, here is your servant Kiman. Let him cross over with my lord the king, and do for him what is good in your sight. And the king answered, Kiman shall cross over with me, and I will do for him what is good in your sight. And whatever you require of me, I will do for you. All the people crossed over the Jordan, and the king crossed too. The king then kissed Barzillai and blessed him, and he returned to his place. Now the king went on to Gilgal, and Kiman went on with him. And all the people of Judah, and also half the people of Israel, also accompanied the king. And behold, all the men of Israel came to the king and said to the king, Why have our brothers, the men of Judah, abducted you, and brought the king and his household and all David's men with him over the Jordan? Then all the men of Judah answered the men of Israel, Because the king is a close relative to us. Why then are you angry about this matter? Have we eaten at all the king's at have we eaten at all at the king's expense, or has anything been taken for us? But the men of Israel answered the men of Judah and said, We have 10 parts in the king. Therefore, we also have more claim on David than you. Why then did you treat us with contempt? Was it not our advice first to bring back our king? Yet the words of the men of Judah were harsher than the words of the men of Israel. Chapter 20. Sheba's revolt. Now a worthless man happened to be there whose name was Sheba, the son of Bichri, a Benjaminite. And then he blew the trumpet and said, We have no share in David, nor do we have an inheritance in the son of Jesse. Every man to his tents, Israel. So all the men of Israel withdrew from following David and followed Sheba, the son of Bichri, but the men of Judah remained, loyal to their king from the Jordan, even to Jerusalem. Then David came to his house in Jerusalem, and the king took the 10 women, the concubines whom he had left behind to take care of the house, and put them in custody and provided them with food, but did not have relations with them. So they were locked up until the day of their death, living as widows. Now the king said to Amasa, Summon the men of Judah for me within 3 days, and be present here yourself. So Amasa went to summon the men of Judah, but he was delayed longer than the set time, which he had designated for him. And David said to Abishai, Now Sheba, son of Bichri, will do us more harm than Absalom. Take your Lord's servants and pursue him, so that he does not find for himself fortified cities and escape from our sight. So Joab's men went out after him, along with the Cherethites, the Pelethites, and all the warriors. They left Jerusalem to pursue Sheba, son of Bichri. When they were when they were at the large stone which was in Gibeon, Amasa came to meet them. Now Joab was dressed in his military attire, and over it he had a belt with a sword in its sheath strapped to his waist. And as he went forward, it fell out. And Joab said to Amasa, Is it going well for you, my brother? And Joab took hold of Amasa by the beard with his right hand to kiss him. Amasa murdered. But Amasa was not on guard on but Amasa was not on guard against the sword which was in Joab's hand. So he struck him in the belly with it, and it spilled out his intestines on the ground, and did not strike him again, and he died. Then Joab and his brother Abishai pursued Sheba the son of Bichri. Now, one of Joab's young men stood by him and said, Whoever favors Joab and whoever is for David, follow Joab. But Amasa was wallowing in his own blood in the middle of the road. And when the man saw that all the people stood still, he removed Amasa from the road to the field and threw a garment over him when he saw that everyone who came by him stood still. Revolt put down. As soon as he was removed from the road, all the men went on after Joab to pursue Sheba, son of Bichri. Now he went on through all the tribes of Israel to Abel, that is, Beth Makkah, and all the Berites, and they assembled and went after him as well. And when they came and besieged him in Abel Beth Makkah, and they built up an assault ramp against the city, and it stood against the outer rampart. and all the people who were with Joab were wreaking destruction in order to topple the wall. Then a wise woman called out from the city, "Listen, listen, please tell Joab, 'Come here, so that I may speak with you.' So he approached her, and the woman said, 'Are you Joab?' And he answered, 'I am.' Then she said to him, 'Listen to the words of your slave.' And he said, 'I'm listening.' Then she spoke, saying, 'In the past they used to say, they will undoubtedly ask advice of Abel, and that is how they ended a dispute. I am one of those who are ready for peace and faithful in Israel. You are trying to destroy a city, even a mother in Israel. Why would you swallow up the inheritance of the Lord?' Joab replied, 'Far be it, far be it from me that I would consume or destroy. Such is not the case, but a man from the hill country of Ephraim, Sheba, the son of Bichri by name, has raised his hand against King David. Only turn him over, and I will depart from the city.' And the woman said to Joab, 'Behold, his head will be thrown to you over the wall.' Then the woman wisely came to all the people, and they cut off the head of Sheba, the son of Bichri, and threw it to Joab. So he blew the trumpet, and they were dispersed from the city, each to his tent. Joab also returned to the king at Jerusalem. Now Joab was in command of the entire army of Israel, and Benaiah, the son of Jehoiada, was over the Cherethites and the Pelethites, and Adoram was over the forced labor, and Jehoshaphat, son of Ahilud, was the secretary, and Sheva was a scribe. Zadok and Abiathar were priests. Ira and Jairite were also priests to David. Chapter 21. Gibeonites' Revenge. Now there was a famine in the days of David for 3 years, year after year. And David sought the presence of the Lord. And the Lord said, 'It is because of Saul and his bloody house, because he put the Gibeonites to death.' So the king called the Gibeonites and spoke to them. Now the Gibeonites were not of the sons of Israel, but of the remnant of the Amorites. And the sons of Israel had made a covenant with them, but Saul had sought to kill them in his zeal for the sons of Israel and Judah. David said to the Gibeonites, 'What should I do for you, and how can I make amends so that you will bless the inheritance of the Lord?' Then the Gibeonites said to him, 'For us it is not a matter of silver and gold with Saul or his house, nor is it for us to put anyone to death in Israel.' Nevertheless, David said, 'I will do for you whatever you say.' So they said to the king, 'The man who destroyed us, and who planned to eliminate us, so that we would not exist within any border of Israel, let 7 men from his sons be given to us, and we will hang them before the Lord in Gibeah of Saul, the chosen of the Lord.' And the king said, 'I will give them.' But the king spared Mephibosheth, son of Jonathan, son of Saul, because of the oath of the Lord which was between them, between David and Saul's son Jonathan. So the king took the 2 sons of Rizpah, the daughter of Aiah, Armani and Mephibosheth, whom she had borne to Saul, and the 5 sons of Merab, the daughter of Saul, whom she had borne to Adriel, the son of Barzillai, the Meholathite, then handed them over to the Gibeonites, and they hanged them on the mountain before the Lord, so that 7 of them fell together. And they were put to death in the first days of harvest at the beginning of barley harvest. And Rizpah, the daughter of Aiah, took sackcloth and spread it out for herself on the rock, from the beginning of the harvest until it rained on them from the sky, and she allowed neither the birds of the sky to rest on them by day, nor the wild animals by night. When it was reported to David what Rizpah, the daughter of Aiah, the concubine of Saul, had done, then David went and took the bones of Saul and the bones of his son Jonathan from the citizens of Jabesh Gilead, who had stolen them from the public square of Bethshan, where the Philistines had hanged them on the day the Philistines struck and killed Saul in Gilboa. He brought he brought up from there the bones of Saul and the bones of his son Jonathan, and they gathered the bones of those who had been hanged. Then they buried the bones of Saul and his son Jonathan in the country of Benjamin in Zelah, in the grave of his father Kish. So they did everything that the king commanded, and after that, God responded to prayer for the land. Now, when the Philistines were at war with Israel again, David went down and his servants with him. And when they fought against the Philistines, David became weary. And then Ishi-Benob, who was among the descendants of the giant, the weight of whose spear was 300 shekels of bronze in weight, had strapped on a new sword, and he intended to kill David. But Abishai, son of Zeruiah, helped him, and struck the Philistine and killed him. Then David's men swore to him, saying, "You shall not go out again with us to battle, so that you do not extinguish the lamp of Israel." Now it came about after this that there was war again with the Philistines at Gob. Then, then Sibbecai the Hushathite struck and killed Saph, who was among the descendants of the giant. And there was war with the Philistines again at Gob. And Elhanan, son of Orogim, the Bethlehemite, killed Goliath the Gittite. The shaft of whose spear was like a weaver's beam. And there was a war at Goth again, where there was a man of great stature who had 6 fingers on each hand and 6 toes on each foot, 24 in number. And he also had been born to the giant. When he defied Israel, Jonathan the son of Shimei, David's brother, struck and killed him. These 4 were born to the giant at Gath, and they fell by the hand of David and by the hand of his servants. Chapter 22. David's Psalm of Deliverance. Now David spoke the words of this song to the Lord on the day that the Lord had saved him from the hand of all his enemies and from the hand of Saul. He said, "The Lord is my rock and my fortress and my deliverer, my God, my rock in whom I take refuge, my shield and the horn of my salvation, my stronghold and my refuge, my Savior, you save me from violence. I call upon the Lord who is worthy to be praised, and I am saved from my enemies. For the waves of death encompassed me, the floods of destruction terrified me, the ropes of Sheol surrounded me, the snares of death confronted me. In my distress I called upon the Lord. Yes, I called out to my God, and from his temple he heard my voice. And my cry for help came into his ears. Then the earth shook and quaked. The foundations of heaven were trembling and were shaken because he was angry. Smoke went up out of his nostrils, and fire from his mouth was devouring. Coals were kindled by it. He also bowed the heavens down low and came down. With a thick darkness under his feet, he rode on a cherub and flew. He appeared on the wings of the wind. He made darkness canopies around him, a mass of waters, thick clouds of the sky. From the brightness before him, coals of fire were kindled. The Lord thundered from heaven, and the Most High uttered his voice. And he shot arrows and scattered them, lightning and routed them. Then the channels of the sea appeared. The foundations of the world were exposed by the rebuke of the Lord. From the blast of the breath of his nostrils, he sent from on high. He took me. He drew me out of many waters. He rescued me from my strong enemy, from those who hated me, for they were too strong for me. They confronted me on the day of my disaster, but the Lord was my support. He also brought me out into an open place. He rescued me because he delighted in me. The Lord has treated me in accordance with my righteousness. In accordance with the cleanliness of my hands, he has repaid me. For I have kept the ways of the Lord, and have not acted wickedly against my God. For all his ordinances were before me. And as for his statutes, I did not deviate from them. I was also blameless towards him, and I have kept myself from my wrongdoing. So the Lord has repaid me in accordance with my righteousness, in accordance with my cleanliness before his eyes. With the one who is faithful, you show yourself faithful. With the blameless one, you prove yourself blameless. With the one who is pure, you show yourself pure. But with the perverted, you show yourself astute, and you have an afflicted people. But your eyes are on the haughty whom you humiliate. For you are my lamp, Lord, and the Lord illuminates my darkness. For by you I can run at a troop of warriors, but my God I can help. By my God I can leap over a wall. As for God, his way is blameless. The word of the Lord is refined. He is a shield to all who take refuge in him. For who is God except the Lord? And who is a rock except our God? God is my strong fortress, and he sets the blameless on his way. He makes my feet like deer's feet, and he sets me on my high places. He trains my hands for battle, so that my arms can bend a bow of bronze. You have also given me the shield of your salvation, and your help makes me great. You enlarge my steps under me, my feet have not slipped. I pursued my enemies and eliminated them, and I did not turn back until they were finished off. And I had devoured them and smashed them so that they would not rise. And they fell under my feet, for you have encircled me with strength for battle. You have forced those who rose up against me to bow down under me. You have also made my enemies turn their backs to me, and I destroyed those who hated me. They looked, but there was no one to save them, even the Lord, but he did not answer them. Then I pulverized them as the dust on the earth. I crushed and trampled them like mud in the streets. You have also saved me from the contentions of my people. You have kept me as head of nations. A people I have not known serve me. Foreigners pretend to obey me. As soon as they hear, they obey me. Foreigners lose heart and come trembling out of their fortresses. The Lord lives, and blessed be my rock, and exalted be my God, the rock of my salvation. The God who executes vengeance for me and brings down peoples under me, who also brings me out from my enemies. You also raise me up above those who rise up against me. You rescue me from the violent person. Therefore I will give thanks to you, Lord, among the nations, and I will sing praises to your name. He is a tower of salvation to his king, and he shows favor to his anointed, to David his descendants forever. Chapter 23. David's last song. Now these are the last words of David. David, the son of Jesse, declares, the man who was raised on high, the anointed of the God of Jacob, and the sweet psalmist of Israel declares, the Spirit of the Lord spoke through me, and his word was on my tongue. The God of Israel said it. The rock of Israel spoke to me. He who rules over mankind righteously, who rules in fear of God, is like the light of the morning when the sun rises. A morning without clouds, where the fresh grass springs out of the earth, from the sunshine after rain. Is my house not indeed so with God? For he has made an everlasting covenant with me, properly ordered in all things and secured. For he will not intend to make all my salvation and all my delight grow. But the worthless, every one of them, are like scattered thorns, because they cannot be taken in hand. Instead, the man who touches them must be armed with iron and the shaft of a spear, and they will be completely burned with fire in their place. David's mighty men. These are the names of the mighty men whom David had: Josheb Bashebeth and Tachmonite, chief of the captains. He was called Adino the Enzite because of his 800 who were killed by him at one time. And after him was Eleazar the son of Dodo at Ahotite, one of the three mighty men of David when they defied the Philistines who had gathered there to battle, and the men of Israel who had withdrawn. He rose up and struck the Philistines with his hand until his hand was weary and it clung to the sword. And the Lord brought about a great victory that day. And the people returned after him only to be plundered to the dead. Now after him was Shema the son of Agi, the Haratite, and the Philistines were gathered into an army where there was a plot of land full of lentils, and the people fled from the Philistines. But he took his stand in the midst of the plot, defended it, and struck the Philistines. And the Lord brought about a great victory. Then 3 of the 30 chief men went down and came to David in harvest time to the cave of Adullam, where the army of the Philistines was camping in the valley of Rephaim. And David was then in the stronghold, while the garrison of the Philistines was then in Bethlehem. And David had a craving and said, oh, that someone would give me water to drink from the well of Bethlehem, which is by the gate. So the 3 mighty men forced their way into the camp of the Philistines and drew water from the well of Bethlehem, which was by the gate. And they carried it and brought it to David. Yet he would not drink it, but poured it out as an offering to the Lord. And he said, far be it from me, Lord, that I would do this. Should I drink the blood of the men who went at the risk of their lives? So he would not drink it. These things the 3 mighty men did. Now Abishai, brother of Joab and son of Zeruiah, was chief of the 30. And he swung his spear against 300 and killed them, and had a name as well as the 3. He was the most honored among 30, so he became their commander. However, he did not attain to the reputation of the 3. Then Benaiah, son of Jehoiada, the son of a valiant man Kabzeel, who had done great deeds, killed the 2 sons of Ariel of Moab. He also went down and killed a lion in the middle of a pit on a snowy day. And he killed an Egyptian, an impressive man. Now the Egyptian had a spear in his hand, but he went down to him with a club and snatched the spear from the Egyptian's hand and killed him with his own spear. These things Benaiah, son of Jehoiada, did, and had a name as well as the 3 mighty men. He was honored among the 30, but he did not attain the reputation of the 3. And David appointed him over his bodyguard. Asahel, brother of Joab, was among the 30, and there was Elhanan, son of Dodo of Bethlehem, Shema the Harodite, Elika the Harodite, Helez the Peltite, Ira the son of Ikesh the Tichite, Abiezer the Anathatite, Mebunai the Hushathite, Zalmon the Ahite, Mahariah the, the Netophathite, and Heleb the son of Banah the Netophathite, Ittai son of Rabias of Gibeah of the sons of Benjamin, Benaiah a, per, a Parathonite, Hidaiah the brooks of Gash, Abialban, Arbathite, Asmaveth, the Bahurimite, Eliabah, son of Shalabonite, the sons of Jeshen, Jonathan, Shema the Haratite, Ahiam, son of Shirar, and the Aharite, Eliphalet, Eliphalet, son of Ahashabai, the son of the Machathite, Eliam, the son of Ahithophel the Gilonite, Hezro the Carmelite, Parai the Arbite, Igal, son of Nathan of Zobah, Benai the Gadite, Zelek the Ammonite, Naharai the Berothite, armor bearers of Joab, the son of Zariah, Ira the Irathite, Gareb of Ithrite, and Uriah the Hittite, 37 in all. Chapter 24. The census taken. Now the anger of the Lord burned against Israel again, and he incited David against them to say, Go, count Israel and Judah. So the king said to Joab, the commander of the army who was with him, Roam about now through all the tribes of Israel, from Dan to Beersheba, and conduct a census of the people, so that I may know the number of the people. But Joab said to the king, May the Lord your God add to the people 100 times as many as they are, while the eyes of my lord the king can still see. But why does my lord the king delight in this thing? Nevertheless, the king's order prevailed against Joab and against the commanders of the army. So Joab and the commanders of the army left the presence of the king to conduct a census of the people of Israel. They crossed the Jordan and camped in Aroer on the right side of the city that is in the middle of the valley of Gad and toward Jazer. Then they came to Gilead and to the land of, of Tatum Hodshi, and they came to Dan Janan and around to Sidon. There they came to the fortress of Tyre and to all the city of the Hivites and the Canaanites, and they went out to the south of Judah to Beersheba. So when they had roamed about through the whole land, they came to Jerusalem at the end of the 9 months and 20 days. And Joab gave the number of the census to the people to the king. In Israel there were 800,000 valiant men who drew the sword, and the men of Judah were 500,000 men. Now David's heart troubled him after he had counted the people. So David said to the Lord, I have sinned greatly in what I have done, but now, Lord, please overlook the guilt of your servant, for I have acted very foolishly. When David got up in the morning, the word of the Lord came to Gad the prophet, David's seer, saying, Go and speak to David. This is what the Lord says: I am imposing upon you 3 choices. Choose for yourself one of them, and I will do it to you. So Gad came to David and told him and said to him, Shall 7 years of famine come to you in your land? Or will you flee for 3 months before your enemies while they pursue you? Or shall there be 3 days of plague in your land? Now consider and see what answer I shall return to him who sent me. Then David said to Gad, I am in great distress. Let us now fall into the hand of the Lord, for his mercies are great, but do not let me fall into human hands. Plague sent. So the Lord sent the plague upon Israel from the morning until the appointed time, and 70,000 men of the people from Dan to Beersheba died. When the angel extended his hand toward Jerusalem to destroy it, the Lord relented of the disaster and said to the angel who destroyed the people, It is enough. Now drop your hand. And the angel of the Lord was by the threshing floor of Arona the Jebusite. Then David spoke to the Lord when he saw the angel who was striking down the people and said, Behold, it is I who have sinned, and it is I who have done wrong. But these sheep, what have they done? Please let your hand be against me and my father's house. David builds an altar. So Gad came to David that day and said to him, "Go up, erect an altar to the Lord on the threshing floor of Araunah and Araunah the Jebusite." Then David went up in accordance with the word of Gad, just as the Lord had commanded. And Araunah looked down and saw the king and his servants crossing over toward him. So Araunah went out and bowed his face to the ground before the king. Then Araunah said, "Why has my lord the king come to his servant?" And David said, "To buy the threshing floor from you in order to build an altar to the Lord, so that the plague may be withdrawn from the people." Araunah then said to David, "Let my lord the king take and offer up what is good in his sight. Look, here are the oxen for the burnt offering, the threshing sledges, and the yokes of the oxen for the wood. Everything, O king, Araunah gives to the king." And Araunah said to the king, "May the Lord your God be forever favorable to you." However, the king said to Araunah, "No, but I will certainly buy it from you for a price, for I will not offer burnt offerings to the Lord my God that cost me nothing." So David bought the threshing floor and the oxen for 50 shekels of silver. Then David built there an altar to the Lord, and he offered burnt offerings and peace offerings. And then the Lord responded to prayer for the land, and the plague was withdrawn from Israel. Ah, 1 Kings, chapter 1. David in old age. Now King David was old, advanced in age, and they covered him with garments, but he could not keep warm. So his servants said to him, "Have him search for a young virgin for my lord the king, and have her attend the king and become his nurse, and have her lie on your chest so that my lord the king may keep warm." So they searched for a beautiful girl throughout the territory of Israel and found Abishag the Shunammite and brought her to the king. The girl was very beautiful, and she became the king's nurse and served him, but the king did not become intimate with her. Now Adonijah, son of Haggith, exalted himself, saying, "I will be king." So he prepared for himself chariots and horsemen with 50 men to run before him. And his father had never rebuked him at any time by asking, "Why have you done so?" And he was also a very handsome man, and he was born after Absalom. Now he had conferred with Joab, the son of Zeruiah, and with Abiathar the priest, and they allied themselves with Adonijah. But Zadok the priest, Benaniah the son of Jehoiada, Nathan the prophet, Shimei, Ray, and the mighty men who belonged to David were not with Adonijah. Adonijah sacrificed sheep, oxen, and fattened steers by the stone of Zoheleth, which is beside Enrogel, and he invited all his brothers and the king's sons and all the men of Judah, the king's servants, but he did not invite Nathan the prophet, Benaiah, the mighty man, or his brother Solomon. Nathan at Bathsheba. Then Nathan spoke to Bathsheba, the mother of Solomon, saying, "Have you not heard that Adonijah the son of Haggith has become king, and David our Lord does not know it? So now come, please, let me give you advice and save your life, and the life of your son Solomon. Go at once to King David and say to him, Have you not, my lord the king, sworn to your servant, saying, Solomon, your son certainly shall be king after me, and he shall sit on my throne? Why then has Adonijah become king? Behold, while you are still there speaking with the king, I will come in after you and confirm your words." So Bathsheba, so Bathsheba entered to the king in the bedroom. Now the king was very old, and Abishag the Shunammite was serving the king. Then Bathsheba bowed and prostrated herself before the king, and the king said, "What is on your mind?" So she said to him, "My lord, you yourself swore to your servant by the Lord your God, saying, Your son Solomon shall certainly be king after me, and he shall sit on my throne. But now behold, Adonijah is king, and now, my lord the king, you do not know it. He has sacrificed oxen and fattened steers and sheep in abundance, and has invited all the sons of the king, Abiathar the priest, and Joab the commander of the army, but he has not invited Solomon your servant. And as for you, my lord the king, the eyes of all Israel are upon you, to announce to them who shall sit on the throne of my lord the king after him. Otherwise, it will come about as soon as my lord the king lies down with his fathers, that I and my son Solomon will be considered offenders." And behold, while she was still speaking with the king, Nathan the prophet came in. They informed the king, saying, "Nathan, the prophet is here." And when he came into the king's presence, he prostrated himself before the king with his face to the ground. Then Nathan said, "My lord the king, Have you yourself said, Adonijah shall be king after me, and he shall sit on my throne? For he has gone down today, and he has sacrificed oxen and fattened steers and sheep in the abundance, and has invited all the king's sons, the commanders of the army, and Abiathar the priest. And behold, they are eating and drinking in his presence, and they said, Long live King Adonijah. But me, even me, your servant, Zadok the priest, Benaiah the son of Jehoiada, and your servant Solomon, he has not invited. Has this thing been done by my lord the king? And have you not let your servants know who shall sit on the throne of my lord the king after him? Then King David responded and said, Summon Bathsheba to me. And she came into the king's presence and stood before the king. The king vowed and said, As the Lord lives, who has redeemed my life from all distress, certainly as I vowed to you by the Lord, the God of Israel, saying, Your son Solomon certainly shall be king after me, and he shall sit on the throne in my place. I will indeed do so this day. Then Bathsheba bowed with her face to the ground and prostrated herself before the king and said, May my lord King David live forever. Then King David said, Summon to me Zadok the priest, Nathan the prophet, and Benaiah the son of Jehoiada. And they came into the king's presence. And the king said to them, Take with you the servants of your lord, and have my son Solomon ride down on my mule, and bring him to Gihon. And have Zadok the priest and Nathan the prophet anoint him there as king over Israel, and blow the trumpet and say, long live King Solomon. Then you shall come up after him, and he shall come and sit on my throne, and he shall be king in my place, for I have appointed him to be ruler over Israel and Judah. Ben Benaiah, son of Jehoiada, answered the king and said, Amen. May the Lord, the God of my lord the king, say the same. Just as the Lord has been with my lord the king, so may he be with Solomon, and make his throne greater than the throne of my lord King David. Solomon anointed king. So Zadok the priest, Nathan the prophet, Benaiah the son of Jehoiada, and the Sherethites and the Pelethites went down and had Solomon ride on King David's mule and brought him to Gihon. And Zadok the priest then took the horn of oil from the tent and anointed Solomon. Then they blew the trumpet, and all the people said, Long live King Solomon. And all the people went up after him. And the people were playing on flutes and rejoicing with great joy, so that the earth shook at their noise. Now Adonijah and all the guests who were with him heard this as they finished eating. When Joab heard the sound of the trumpet, he said, Why is the city making such an uproar? While he was still speaking, behold, Jonathan, son of Abiathar the priest, came. Then Adonijah said, Come in, for you are a valiant man, and you bring good news. But Jonathan replied to Adonijah, On the contrary, our lord King David has made Solomon king. The king has also sent with him Zadok the priest, Nathan the prophet, Benaiah the son of Jehoiada, and the Sherethites and the Pelethites. They have mounted him on the king's mule. Furthermore, Zadok the priest and Nathan the prophet have anointed him king in Gihon, and they have come up from there rejoicing, so that the city is going wild. This is the noise which you have heard. Besides, Solomon has even taken seat on the throne of the kingdom. Moreover, the king's servants came to bless our Lord King David, saying, May your God make the name of Solomon better than your name, and his throne greater than your throne. And the king bowed himself on the bed. The king has also said this, Blessed be the Lord God of Israel, who has granted one to sit on my throne today while my own eyes see it. Then all the guests of Adonijah trembled and got up, and each went on his way. Adonijah was also afraid of Solomon, and when he got up and went and took hold of the horns of the altar. Now it was reported that Solomon, saying, Behold, Adonijah is afraid of King Solomon, for behold, he has taken hold of the horns of the altar, saying, May King Solomon swear to me today that he will not put his servant to death with the sword. And Solomon said, If he is a worthy man, not one of his hairs will fall to the ground. But if wickedness is found in him, he will die. So King Solomon sent men, and they brought him down from the altar, and he came and prostrated himself before the King Solomon. And Solomon said to him, Go to your house. Chapter 2. David's command to Solomon. As David's time to die drew near, he commanded his son Solomon, saying, I'm going the way of all the earth. So be strong, prove yourself a man. Do your duty to the Lord, your God, to walk in his ways, to keep his statutes, his commandments, his ordinances, and his testimonies, according to what is written in the law of Moses, so that you may succeed in all that you do and wherever you turn, so that the Lord may fulfill his promises which he spoke regarding me, saying, if your sons are careful about their way, to walk before me in truth, with all their heart and all their soul, you shall not be deprived of a man to occupy the throne of Israel. Now you yourself also know what Joab the son of Zeruiah did to me, what he did to the two commanders of the armies of Israel, to Abner son of Nerand and Amasa son of Jether, whom he killed. He also shed the blood of war in peace, and he put the blood of war on his belt that was on his waist, and on his sandals that were on his feet. So act as your wisdom dictates, and do not let his gray hair go down in Sheol in peace. However, show kindness to the sons of Barzillai the Gileadite, and let them be among those who eat at your table. For they assisted me when I fled from Absalom your brother. And behold, you have with you Shimei son of Gera, the Benjaminite of Bahurim. Now it was he who cursed me with a painful curse on the day I went to Mahanaim. But when he came down to meet me at the Jordan, I swore to him by the Lord, saying, I will not put you to death with the sword. But now, do not leave him unpunished. For you are a wise man, and you will know what to do to him, and you will bring his gray hair down to Sheol with blood. Death of David. Then David lay down with his fathers, and he was buried in the city of David. Now the days that David reigned over Israel were 40 years. In Hebron he reigned for 7 years, and in Jerusalem he reigned for 33 years. Then Solomon sat at the throne of his father David, and his kingdom was firmly established. Now Adonijah the son of Haggith came to Bathsheba, the mother of Solomon. So she said, do you come peacefully? And he said, peacefully. Then he said, I have something to say to you. And she said, speak. So he said, you yourself know that the kingdom was mine, and that all Israel intended for me to be king. However, the kingdom has turned around and become my brother's, for it was his from the Lord. So now I am making one request of you. Do not refuse me. And she said to him, speak. Then he said, please, speak to Solomon the king, for he will not refuse you, that he may give me Abishag the Shunammite as a wife. And Bathsheba said, very well, I will speak to the king for you. Adonijah executed. So Bathsheba went to King Solomon to speak to him for Adonijah, and the king stood to meet her, bowed to her, and sat on his throne. Then he had a throne set up for the king's mother, and she sat on his king also said to Shimei, "You yourself know all the evil that you acknowledge in your heart, which you did to my father David. Therefore, the Lord will return your evil on your own head. But King Solomon will be blessed, and the throne of David will be established before the Lord forever." So the king commanded Benaiah, son of Jehoiada, and he went out and struck him so that he died. And the kingdom was established in the hands of Solomon. Chapter 3. Solomon's rule consolidated. Now Solomon formed a marriage alliance with Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and took Pharaoh's daughter and brought her to the city of David until he had finished building his own house and the house of the Lord and the wall around Jerusalem. The people were still sacrificing on the high places because there was no house built for the name of the Lord until those days. Now Solomon loved the Lord, walking in the statutes of his father David, except that he was sacrificing and burning incense on the high places. And the king went to Gibeon to sacrifice there because that was that was the great high place. Solomon offered 1,000 burnt offerings on that altar. In Gibeon, the Lord appeared to Solomon in a dream at night, and God said, "Ask what you wish me to give you." Solomon's prayer. Then Solomon said, "You have shown great faithfulness to your servant David, my father, according as he walked before you in truth, righteousness, and uprightness of heart toward you. And you have reserved for him this great faithfulness, that you have given him a son to sit on his throne as it is this day. And now, Lord my God, you have made your servant king in place of my father David, yet I am like a little boy. I do not know how to go out or to come in, and your servant is in the midst of your people, whom you have chosen, a great people who are too many to be numbered or counted. So give your servant an understanding heart to judge your people, to discern between good and evil. For who is capable of judging this great people of yours?" God's answer. Now it was pleasing in the sight of the Lord that Solomon had asked this thing, and God said to him, "Because you have asked this thing, you have not asked for yourself a long life, nor have you asked riches for yourself, nor have you asked for the lives of your enemies, but you have asked for yourself discernment to understand justice. Behold, I have done according to your words. Behold, I have given you wise and discerning heart, so that there has been no one like you before you, nor shall one like you arise after you. I have also given you what you have not asked, both riches and honor, so that there will not be any among the kings like you in all your days. And if you walk in my ways, keeping my statutes and commandments as your father David walked, then I will prolong your days." Then Solomon awoke, and behold, it was a dream. And he came to Jerusalem and stood before the ark of the covenant of the Lord, and offered burnt offerings and made peace offerings, and held a feast for all his servants. Solomon wisely judges. Then 2 women who were prostitutes came to the king and stood before him. The one woman said, "Pardon me, my lord, this woman and I live in the same house, and I gave birth to a child while she was in the house. And it happened on the third day after I gave birth that this woman also." To the other. But the woman whose child was the living one, spoke to the king, for she was deeply stirred over her son, and she said, "Pardon me, my lord, give her the living child, and by no means kill him." But the other woman was saying, "He shall be neither mine nor yours. Cut him." Then the king replied, "Give the first woman the living child, and by no means kill him. She is his mother." When all Israel heard about the judgment which the king had handed down, they feared the king. No, it does. They do now. They do. They do now. Hold on a minute. The lights on the port that was hooked into your tablet were blinking, and then I noticed the lights on the mic on the table went dead, so I switched it. Two lights were on, like you said, and went dead in five. It went dead inside 5 minutes.